not trading Trevor Bauer. Now, they have a doubleheader today. They have a series this weekend against the Cubs. The narrative could change. If they get swept today, if they lose all three this weekend against the Cubs, I do wonder if the conversation shifts on Monday morning, getting into the 3 o'clock deadline on Monday afternoon. But as of now, Trevor Bauer is not a realistic trade candidate, whether it's the Twins or any other team.
Wow, that is.
Go ahead, Phil.
I mean, what are they expecting
Phil's
to accomplish? Like, so
well,
he's a free agent in 30 days.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's a logical candidate for the qualifying offer, right? Like, if you're the Reds, you absolutely tender him a qualifying offer. So they need to weigh, okay, we could re-sign him. We'll tender him. So if he leaves, we'll get a really good draft pick. So whatever return we get has to trump the draft pick. Plus, with everything going on, and they still feel like, hey, with 8 teams making the playoffs, even if it's like a 20% chance at this point, they still feel like, hey, we have a chance. And, hey, if our lineup can get healthy, if our pitching can live up to its expectations, the Reds might feel like if we can just be one of those 8 teams in the National League, we can make a serious run.
Here's what's actually hilarious. So ESPN.com standings, the Reds are the second worst team in the National League record-wise right now. But according to the playoff odds percentages, and this is factoring in what their roster is, the fact that they have Trevor Bauer and Sonny Gray, they've got some good hitters. So they have a 30% chance to make the playoffs at 11-17. The Marlins at 14-12 have only a 36% chance to make the playoffs. So
it is pretty amazing. I will also say this, Phil. Like, if you're Derek Falvey, and by the way, I'm talking to Derek here this afternoon, so maybe I'll gain a little bit more insight. But if you're Derek Falvey, if you're Thad Levine, if you're Rob Antony, if you're anybody else in that Twins front office, does it make sense to give up, whether it's even just Brent Rooker, multiple prospects, does it make sense to give up multiple prospects or even just one prospect for Bauer when you could sign him come December?
So Dukes, Falvey did a call a couple of days ago, a Zoom call with a bunch of us, and talked about, and he was asked at the end, I believe, the very question of also, are you inclined to try and make trades and win in such a odd year, compared to if this is 2021 and hopefully we're back to playing 162? And he said, oh yeah, he said when we came to spring training, when we came back for our camp, we were all in basically. That being said, I don't get the impression that the Twins would trade a name prospect who's in St. Paul. And the one potential workaround here is you can't trade a guy, you can't name the guy who's going to be traded from your 60-man roster at 3 o'clock Monday if he's traded, but he can be a player to be named and then shipped out in December. All of that being said, I guess my sense is if the Twins are going to make a trade, it's going to be probably a smaller deal, but I don't expect anything that would come near a Lewis or a Kirilloff, Larnach, Rooker type.
Completely agree. Maybe Rooker, right? I mean, if you look at that position, right? I mean, Kirilloff, Larnach, Rooker, Sabato, I mean, that is a position of strength from a depth standpoint. So maybe Rooker, but certainly not Duran, Chalmers, any really good pitching prospect. The prices are incredibly high. I had a Twins official text me yesterday. I asked, hey, just overall general impressions, where things stand right now. He said, hey, we're always looking to make the team better. Like, it's literally our job. We're on the phone. We're texting a lot of these front offices. We have a sense right now what it'll take. And right now, the prices are incredibly high. Now, with the 3 o'clock deadline, Judd, we saw last year, whether it was the Dyson trade or a few other trades that happened last second, like oftentimes the prices come down in those final hours right before the deadline. But as we sit here, what is it, about 96 hours before the deadline? I'm just telling you, nothing is even remotely close on the Twins front.
Doogie, what do you know about Byron Buxton and Josh Donaldson?
Well, I can tell you that the Twins expect reinforcements. I mean, talking about them getting better, they're going to get better next week. Michael Pineda, eligible to be reinstated on Monday. We'll see Big Mike here pretty quick next week. Josh Donaldson, I expect him back in the lineup at some point during the homestand. The homestand starts on Monday. I don't know if definitively it'll be Monday, but I fully expect him to be back in the lineup at some point during the homestand that starts on Monday. Byron Buxton is close Mitch Garver isn't all that close. Jake Odorizzi isn't all that close. Cody Stashak is relatively close. Zach Littell is doing okay, but I'm just telling you, they are going to get reinforcements. Like, if they can just get healthy, Phil, like, think about it. How many games this year have they had their full complement of guys? Really? I mean, if they can get Mitch Garver back in that lineup, even though he was scuffling pre-injury, you get Byron Buxton back in the lineup, you get Josh Donaldson back in the lineup, you get Big Mike Pineda in that rotation, and you get Stashak and maybe Littell and possibly Odorizzi back to the bullpen / starting rotation. I think that roster is probably good enough at this point to compete. I mean, look at the landscape of the American League. The Yankees are completely banged up. They're not even winning the East. Tampa has 10 pitchers injured, 5 out for the season, yet the Rays have a 2.5-game lead in the American League East. But if the Twins matched up with the Rays in October, should the Twins curl up in the fetal position? I say no. If the Twins match up with the Oakland A's, they curl up in the fetal position. I say no. I just think if the Twins can get most, if not all of these guys back, this roster is good enough to win a championship.
Doogie, I saw this graphic on MLB Network last night. It was a hypothetical trade between the Brewers and the Twins. So the Twins would receive... Oh, here we go. Hold on. Some reckless speculation.
Reckless speculation.
So this is a trade hypothetical. This is a haul. But the Twins would receive Josh Hader. The Brewers would receive Royce Lewis, Ryan Jeffers, and Brent Rooker.
What? But the Brewers are under 500, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I love, like, Josh Hader is probably one of my bigger man crushes in sports. And that is a haul to give up for Josh Hader.
You can't give up Royce Lewis for a reliever. But first of all, bravo, Declan. That is
reckless speculation.
So real quick before Doogie answers here, the benefit here would be that Josh Hader isn't a free agent until after the 2023 season. So you'd be getting him for like 3.5 years. Josh Hader so far this year has not allowed a hit. He has not allowed a hit.
Oh, I love it.
So far this season. He's faced 34 batters. None of them have gotten on base via hit.
I will say this. That is a realistic starting point. The Twins are not making that trade, Declan. I can promise you that. But that would be the starting point. If you're talking to the Brewers front office, when you ask about Hader, that literally is what about they are asking for. Maybe it would be a pitching prospect instead of Rooker or instead of Jeffers. And again, the Twins are not making that trade, even though I do wonder about Royce Lewis long-term. Like, what position does he play? He's only been playing shortstop over in St. Paul. He did play some center field in the Arizona Fall League way back when, and maybe he can eventually transition back to maybe playing some center fields. But if he's just a shortstop, you've got Jorge Polanco signed to a team-friendly deal for multiple more years. I think Jorge Polanco is one of the most valuable players on the team. So where exactly does Royce Lewis fit in? So Royce for an ace, I would have an open mind to that, depending on who that arm is. We can kick around specific names, but like, I wouldn't be closed-minded. I think they will be right now, but I'm talking like in the winter. I wouldn't necessarily say that Royce Lewis is untouchable if I were Falvey and Levine.
So a gut from you. Do you think by 3:00 on Monday, the Twins swing Dukes some type of trade that helps the here and now big league roster?
I wouldn't be shocked, Judd. You could argue that they could use, maybe a better fourth outfielder, somebody that can hit lefty pitching, a bench type bat, or a reliever. You can never have too many relievers. So I think if they do something, it's not going to be super headline worthy. At this point, I just don't think there's momentum, for them, trading for Clevenger or Bauer, or, a really good pitcher. If you think Robbie Ray still has something in the tank, even though he's been horrible for the Diamondbacks this year. I just don't foresee a big move like that happening. But sure, I would not be shocked if they bring in some sort of reinforcement by 3:00 Monday.
Doogie, let's do some Timberwolves here before we say goodbye to you. What are your? Well, let's start here. We've been speculating across the board all week long. I know you and us. We both had Bobby Marks on from ESPN just to go over different scenarios. So what will their process be like from what you can tell? Do you think they are starting with, let's see what we can get for the #1 pick, or do you think they're starting with, let's see if we can draft a superstar and nail it with the #1 pick?
Phil, I think it's a combo platter. I mean, Gerson is always going to go big star hunting. So he is going to work the phones. He is going to call nearly every team and just see, if those teams are interested in acquiring that number 1 pick. But they are going to do all sorts of homework on these top prospects. They will get interview time with LaMelo Ball. They will get interview time with Anthony Edwards. You name the prospect. There is an appeal. I can tell you this, Phil. There is an appeal to going number 1. I can just tell you right now, if LeVar Ball wants to be on the record saying he wants his son in New York, fine. I'm sure there is some truth to that. He'd love to have LaMelo Ball in a big market, New York or Chicago. But I can just tell you, somebody close to LaMelo told me last week, LaMelo is plenty comfortable going number 1. Bobby Marks told me that. Bobby Marks is helping. I don't know if you got into this with Bobby, but Bobby told me he's helping LaMelo with being prepared for these interviews. He's also helping Daniel Oturu, Tyrese Halliburton, a bunch of these draft prospects. Bobby is, but he told me on LaMelo, Bobby is confident that LaMelo has zero problem going number 1 overall coming here to Minnesota. Anthony Edwards on his Instagram story the other day had a picture of himself in a Wolves jersey. I mean, that's evidence. I can also tell you somebody close to Anthony told me Anthony Edwards would love to be the number 1 pick. They are going to do all sorts of homework on Ball, Edwards, Avdia, go up and down the list of the top prospects. But make no mistake, they absolutely are going to have trade talks with a lot of teams.
Real quick, breaking news, Woj bomb. The NBA players have decided to resume the playoffs. A source tells ESPN. We don't have any more details beyond that.
There's too much money at stake. They can still have their voices heard. I get it. I'm sure a lot of them feel isolated in that bubble, but I'm not quite sure what exactly is accomplished by boycotting the rest of the season. Oh, by the way, there are a lot of players that still need those paychecks. We think about LeBron and Anthony Davis, but what about, Alex Caruso, or you name, some teams 11th man, 12th man. Those guys need/want those paychecks. There's so much money at stake. You can still have your voices heard in so many different ways by continuing to play. To me, this is the right decision.
Hey, Dukes, what became of LaMelo Ball's dad? LeVar, we used to hear from, weekly on ESPN. He'd go on PTI, blah, blah, blah. It feels like, since the shoe company was not a roaring success, that the amount that we hear from dad has decreased exponentially, which, by the way, if you're the Wolves, might be a good thing if you're weighing the good and bad of potentially taking the kid.
It absolutely is a good thing. I can tell you, Judd, there was a prospect last year. I won't name the name because I don't have, firsthand knowledge of this, but I have it from multiple sources. I can just tell you a prospect that Wolves fans would love to have in a Wolves uniform right now. He went a handful of picks after the Wolves ended up taking Jarrett Culver. But the Wolves checkmarked some red flags about the prospect because of that prospect's dad. Whether true or not, that's what the Wolves internally had formulated on their write-up of the prospect, that, hey, dad could be a potential pain in the ass. That's one check mark against the kid. It wasn't the only reason why they didn't take the kid, but I can just tell you, they dig deep on the parents. So, yeah, I think in the case of LeVar, Judd, I think Jermaine Jackson Sr., who is coaching LaMelo Ball, his personal coach, I think he's gotten to LeVar. I think Raymond Brothers, the agent for LaMelo, has gotten to LeVar. I think the right people have been able to communicate with LeVar to tell him to tone it down as much as he can.
Interesting.
Doogie, I'll give us one more nugget on any ownership. Is Kevin Garnett buying the Wolves next week, or what's the deal?
No, I mean, I think if KG ends up in the ownership group, Phil, I think it would be after, whether it's Daniel E. Strauss or whoever ends up buying the team. I don't foresee KG's group winning the bidding. I don't foresee KG entering the mix before a transaction takes place. But maybe after a transaction takes place, that might make some sense. Daniel E. Strauss was in town in early August. He had that exclusive negotiating window. I'll just caution people this, because there's a lot of Daniel E. Strauss steam right now. This is still a lengthy process. There is still so much betting out that needs to happen. Hey, Glenn Taylor's changed his mind before. I still think it's when, not if, that Glenn will sell the Wolves. But I just want to tell Wolves fans, this is still going to be a long time before anything is official.
Great stuff, dudes. Thank you.
Appreciate you, man. We'll talk soon.
You got it. Take it easy, boys.